So hello everyone and welcome to our conference, The Next Normal, Engaging Schools with Stories of War and Conflict. My name is Charlotte and I work for Imperial War Museums and I manage the War and Conflict Subject Specialist Network. So the network brings together more than 500 organisations and individuals around the world who look at conflict from the First World War through to the present day. And I'm really pleased to welcome two of our members to speak in this session, which is looking at IWM's digital family missions. And now to introduce our two speakers. So Clare, Lawlor and Olivia Murphy are producers in IWM's Public Engagement and Learning team. Working across all of IWM's sites, they produce learning and engagement events and programmes for all of IWM's audiences on site and online. So I'm going to hand over now to Clare and Olivia to start your presentation for us.
Thank you, Charlotte, for that lovely introduction. Olivia is going to be having the presentation up, so hopefully you can all see that. Please nod. Yeah, wonderful. So, yeah, thank you, Charlotte. That was a really lovely introduction, and it's so nice to see so many faces virtually. So Olivia and I are here to talk about IWM's family mission. But before we do that, we're going to show you a short trailer that we had made for the summer holidays this year. We're going to attempt to share it. It's about a minute long, and you'll see our host CBBC presenter Ben Shires on the trailer as well. So take it away, Olivia.
Join your friends as Imperial War Museums as we make it, dance it, bake it, paint it, jump it, write it, and, well, who knows what other activities we'll get up to together every Friday at 11 AM.
Thank you, Olivia. So hopefully you could all hear and see that. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavour as to what Family Mission is, and I'm going to go into it in a little bit more depth now. So Family Mission is essentially a series of challenges and activities for families to take part in together, inspired by an object or a personal story in IWM's collections that's relevant to the national curriculum. So on a practical point, these are shared in video format on IWM's social media channels and the IWM website as part of the new home learning hub that we had created during lockdown. And families can watch back any missions that they might have missed, and there's also some additional content on there as well. For example, more in-depth instructions and some more links to the museum's collections. So the family missions were created in March this year, and we wanted to produce new content for families on our digital platforms. Now, you might be wondering why we're talking about families when this is a conference all about schools, but the family missions derived from our online schools activity, which is called Adventures in History. So these were longer lesson style videos, around 15 minutes or so, and the family missions came from that. So they would be a nice additional activity that you could tie in with the Adventures in History. So the Adventures in History would be out on the Wednesday, and then Family Mission would be on the Friday. So it was like a fun activity for families to take part in at the end of, no doubt, a very long week of home learning. And the missions, they ranged in various activities, including baking ration recipe cakes, which Olivia actually made herself, and cracking secret codes. And the eagle-eyed of you might have spotted that on our design tiles that we've got up on the screen now, there's some Morse code there. So I'll be very impressed if any of you know what that actually says in Morse code. I didn't. Olivia had to remind me a few minutes ago. So the intended audience was families at home in lockdown, looking for inspiration to keep the children entertained at home. And we aimed this at around age 5+. And we were really mindful at the time that most shops were closed during the first lockdown, and there were really limited supplies that families would have access to. So we made sure that all the activities you could do at home with items easily found in your homes, for example, toilet roll holders. which you'll find out a little bit more about later what we did with those. And we made sure that we pre-recorded all of our activities. So we thought about doing live content, which is great, but it meant that if we pre-recorded, we could edit them. So we could incorporate archive footage, photography, sound effects, and really importantly, we could put subtitles on the films as well, so they were nice and accessible for everyone. Now, at the very start, we began recording these on our phones at home, but as the mission progressed, we were fortunate enough to see funding from the Old Possums Practical Trust, and that meant we could engage with CBBC presenter Ben Shires, who we had worked with on previous family activities a couple of years ago, and he became the face or the host of our family missions over lockdown. And Ben's expertise and fame and reach allowed us to push ourselves with our script writing. So Olivia and I would take it in turns, leading on a family mission, and the whole process to get one produced took about 3 weeks. So that included coming up with a concept, did it link to collections, did it link to the national curriculum, did it link to the adventures in history, writing the script, getting Ben to film the footage, editing it, getting it out on social media as well. So we made sure we had really firmed up project management templates that we could use to make sure that we could stay on top of all the things that we needed to do so that nothing got missed. So I've talked a little bit about just the practicalities and the ideas of family mission that we wanted to create. Olivia's going to now take over the presentation. She's going to talk a little bit more about the evaluation and what the lessons that we learned were. Thank you, Olivia.
Hello. So I think one of our main lessons that we learned was you start to run out of ideas after 20 weeks of putting out content every week. The demand for those weekly videos with such a quick turnaround time, staff going in and out of furlough periods, also made it really difficult to think of new stories and practical activities to give to families. So reaching out regularly to our other colleagues and coming back together as a group as well to plan and share ideas to come up with some more inspiration for each weekly activity was really important. Back in April and May, social media was having a bit of a moment with this kind of content, and at the time we were really happy for it to only have a sort of a week's shelf life. But as the project has moved on, we have started to look at how we can create more of a legacy or a regular programming piece for the digital family missions. And one of the ways that we started doing that is we started creating web pages and writing out the content for a web page, and created a home learning hub on our website to host some of those videos, to host additional content, and to just flesh out some of the ideas, because all the videos are about 2 minutes long, which allow it to be hosted on Twitter and Facebook, so that you can actually watch it as part of your newsfeed while you're scrolling, which limits the amount you can share content-wise on those videos, which again, it worked really well having the web pages to host that information. In the beginning, we had a lot of families sharing and people sending in images or videos of their families or school children that were taking part, but it does slow down as the project continued, as people started going out again, out of lockdown. So we then started to link up our family missions with what we were doing on site, which I'll tell you about a little bit more about in a minute. The other thing was because we pre-recorded everything, it meant that we couldn't answer questions live to families as you would if you were to do a YouTube live video or go live on Facebook, for example. But it just meant for us that there were no technical mishaps, and as Claire's already mentioned, we were able to then include archival photos and images into the content. And we were able to interact with people in the comments section. So it just meant a level of monitoring the comments in order to answer anyone's questions in there. In terms of what went well, this couldn't really have happened without the expertise within our teams, who have high video editing skills, working with our design department as well. It just wouldn't have the look that it does now. Initially, we were all taking it in turns to film at home. This became increasingly difficult, of course, with furlough and varying degrees of success of filming at home. So a professional presenter made this so much easier. It enabled a quicker turnaround time with the film. Ben's personal social media presence helped us to boost our profile as well. And he added an element of fun and sleekness to the final product, which also helps to add to creating more of a legacy for this work. And also, as Claire has mentioned, it allowed us to push ourselves in the script writing. It's a lot easier to write in a script for somebody else, like start off in the bath, whereas if you're on that instruction for yourself, you might not want to film it. In between lockdowns, we've been bringing families back on site, but continuing our digital missions for families. So, for example, in over the summer holidays and October half term, so we continued doing the digital missions for families who might not be wanting to come on site, or for families who were coming on site but didn't feel like they were able to engage in all of the activities that they were doing. So we, for example, for October half term was themed around spies. We had online spies family missions that they could take part in, and we also had live events on site that families could do. So if they were on site, they then could have more learning back home. If they were on site but didn't necessarily feel like they wanted to do everything, we could signpost them to something to do at home when they get back home. Or if they simply couldn't visit us, then we were still able to reach out to those families. In terms of our reach and engagement, this exceeded all of our expectations. So we increased our online KPIs and hope to keep the momentum up with our online presence as we continue to put out family missions over school holidays. So that is it for us. We do have a family mission here we can play. It is about 2 minutes long, so we'll wait and see if we have any questions, and if not, we can play one of these videos for you so you can see what these family missions actually look like.
Yeah, if you want to play the film, and then as Olivia says, if you want to ask a question, if you want to just pop it into the chat box, and we'll come to that after the film. Thanks.
Oh, hello there. I'm Ben Shires, reporting from submarine HMS Quiff to tell you all about this week's family mission from the folks over at Imperial War Museums. While many of us are staying safe at home, we can keep in touch with our loved ones using the marvel of modern technology. Oops. But what do we do to keep in touch with each other when faced with some technical difficulties? Well, worry not, because if you've seen this week's Adventures in History film featuring yours truly and our friend the Submariner Ed, you'll know that all the superb submariners who work on submarines know just what to do. On today's modern submarines, submariners use walkie-talkies to chat with each other from up and down the sub. But just in case these should fail, they have an ingenious backup plan. Speaking tubes, or voice pipes as they're sometimes called, are installed on ships and submarines, enabling submariners to talk to each other without using technology, all thanks to the phenomenon of physics. A speaking tube is a device based around two cones and an air tube. Essentially, when you speak into one of the cones, it causes vibrations. These vibrations travel down the air tube, reaching the other cone, which in turn vibrates, and it's those vibrations that allow you to hear the other person's voice. For this week's IWM family mission, we want you to discover the spectacle of sound by making your very own speaking tubes. All you need are a couple of tin cans and some string, and you will be away speaking to people from your household like this. Knock, knock. Who's there? Dishes. Dishes who? Dishes ridiculous. Now, the folks at IWM have put all the instructions and everything that you and your grown-ups will need to make your very own speaking tubes available in the link below on IWM's website. And whilst Imperial War Museum's doors remain closed, we still want you to keep in touch with us. So please show us your skills in the thread and comments below. We can't wait to hear from you. But for now, goodbye.
Thank you both so much for a wonderful presentation and for giving us an insight into your work and the way that you've been changing what you've been doing. There's some really nice comments in the chat. It looks like people have enjoyed it too, which is brilliant. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.